What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Logic Bomb Podcast, episode 21. And in this episode, we have a two-time world champion join us, Pengu. What's up, Pengu? How you doing, man?
Hello, guys. Glad to be here. I've been watching this for a while now, I'm not gonna lie. And I did have this idea in my head that maybe one day I might attend, and then it happened. So I'm glad to be here.
I think I was counting the other day. I want to say we've done like I want to say 5 or 6 podcasts of different forms together over our lifespan, Pengu. So I'm glad we could get together in another format here. I'm looking forward to this. It's always a good time to sit down with you. Kind of a lot going on with Siege right now. We're approaching Steel Wave rollout. We don't know the exact date yet, but we would think probably sometime within the next week would be my guess. We're going to see a new season roll out. So there's a lot going on there. We have a lot of stuff that we want to talk to you about as far as how the Pro League is looking different and some changes that have been made there. And also, you and your situation on G2 is a little different than the last time I talked to you. So lots to discuss. With that said, let's jump straight into it today, boys. How we doing?
I'm doing good. I'm really glad to have Pengu here. I'm over the moon about it. I feel like we've got, legitimately a real Siege hero. Do you know what I mean? Like one of the real
villain, if you still will.
There's a total of what, like 4 two-time world champions?
I believe 4. Let's count on one hand, right? So there's myself and Fabian. Then there's Goga.
And Troy.
And Troy, right? My question is, did we win the second one with Junes? Am I bad for not remembering this on the top of my head?
No, because you had quite a few people in that team.
We did have quite a few people in that team. I don't think we did. So I think it's just us 4 people, yeah.
Actually,
Bosco. Yeah, from console.
Can't forget about Bosco.
Yeah.
That's quite a grab when we look at one of 5 two-time world champions. I feel pretty good about ourselves.
Certainly. I got to watch the year 1, season 1 stats not too long ago.
Oh yeah, what did it look like?
You were number 1 in EU.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about because I had not played more than a handful of hours of FPS games back then. But I
remember you playing Recruit Shield.
So as you said, Recruit Shield. Care Bear, who was on our team before Prodigio started, he basically, to my knowledge, invented the Recruit Shield meta, the 5/7, the heat grenade, etc., 2-speed shield. And obviously, I embodied that as well. And then I was put on Thatcher and Rook, and I was just prone on the floor because back then your legs would always go in front of your character, and your toes, because there's no limb penetration back then, would just soak up all the bullets. It didn't matter how bad I was because they're shooting my toes. And I just made it work. And then they nerfed it in season 2, and I didn't do so good after that.
But, so you went to Blackbeard in season 2, right?
I went to Blackbeard, and you don't have a head anymore, so it's great.
So to put this into perspective for people that didn't play back then or didn't know, if I remember correctly, you started on a team called Rex, right? With Aga?
Reflex.
That was
R4
Reflex.
Or whatever. Reflex,
Yeah. So you had, at one point, you were playing 2 Recruit Shields, just at least for a little bit.
Yeah.
That is probably, when people are upset about 20-second meta today and saying it's a little bit stressful to watch, I dare anyone to go back and watch double Recruit Shield throwing grenades at you and shield flapping and like almost 100% accurate hipfire, just hunting you down. That is the most terrifying thing. Like Blitz in his strong state, nothing.
No, nothing.
Old Recruit Shield. Whew. People used to pull them out to beat cheaters. That's how good they were.
And who would have thought, right? It didn't seem like it was very good. Obviously, you had the Recruit, you had the Bandit loadout. So you had the 3 Barbar, you had Barbar and C4 with the MP7 Ironside. Bandit back then himself had 3 Barbars or C4s, so he had this special niche element to him. It's very interesting to have those because we don't really see that unique aspect anymore. Very low impact, of course, but it's fun.
I actually kind of missed that. The double utility recruit. It was interesting and competitive.
What's interesting for me to think about is Bandit having 3 barbed wire. Like, do you think that was because when the concept of Bandit evolved, they were thinking that electrified barbed wire would be a big deal?
It must be because he had 3 Bandit battery charges back then, right? And he had 3 barbed wires, and then initially he ended up getting 4. I thought it was a cool concept because what we would do in Pro League would be that, let's say we had a pulse and a bandit, but we only wanted 1 C4. Then we would take barbed wire on the bandit to get 3 barbed wires, but pixie 4 on the pulse. Or if we wanted barbed wire specifically, instead of picking a character that would have the barbed wire, you just pick the bandit because you get 3 out instead of 2. And it was really cool. And of course, bandit was a huge operator back then because bandit tricking was just so much stronger because, people didn't know how to deal with it. There was no Sophia, Capital wasn't a thing, etc.
Yeah.
When
you look at the trick you could do as well. There was a trick you could do with the barbed wire as well. Where if you remember old Oregon, top of white, people would put the barbed wire there and then hide the battery in the corner. So if you had a Monty pushing up, you'd get set when you're breaking the door or the castle and you couldn't drone in. Yep. And barbed wire used to be 3 hits and actually slow you.
Yep.
So it wasn't that bad. It was just difficult to justify the battery in the wire. It was more like having it on the wall was easier before Hibana, right?
No, it was a lot easier. And I mean, once people learn that there's a bandit charge in the barbed wire, I mean, back then you always ran Thatcher as well. So It wasn't as oppressive as it would be nowadays, for example, where Thatcher is always banned. But nowadays, people are so good at the game that putting a bandit charge in a barbed wire just doesn't do much anymore.
Yeah. For viewers that aren't familiar, Pengu, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm pretty sure I'm getting this right, but Pengu won year 1, season 1 of Pro League. He was the year 1, season 1 Pro League champion on PC. At that time, there was PC and Xbox. When you look at Siege as an esport from then to now, I sum it up in a few words. Like, what do you think?
I mean, the easy word is, it's like incredible, right? But what's incredible? The incredible part is how far we've come, not just speaking anything from like funding to teams to competitiveness to like casters to hosts to fans. It's just everything has evolved crazy much. It was about 2018 Invitationals when the game really took off. And before that, making a Pro League final was great, but I mean, there was maybe 20 fans and the prize pool was like $5,000, which is a lot of money still, but compared to nowadays, it's nothing, right? Just participating these days in a LAN tournament, just making top 2 domestically makes a huge difference. Anything from exposure to prize cut to how much you're actually getting out of your career. Like going to a tournament, you get so much out of it. Back then, it was like, okay, you made LAN, but I mean, it didn't really matter that much, right? Winning is cool, but who cares? It's a bad esports game, I would say, not as looked up to esports game. And it just changed on a dime, pretty much. I can't even tell exactly when it happened, but from my memory, like 2018 Invitationals, just for me at least, it changed everything going forward for esports. But even before that, it was on a really like steady growth and a very positively increasing within esports.
I think that that jumps. The 2018 Invitational kind of jumps out to me as well.
Yeah.
When you won year 1, season 1, was there any thought in your head, hey, this is my career, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? Or were you thinking, well, I'm going to do this until I go back to school and then I'm going to finish my degree and then I'm going to get a real job? Like, was there any thought in your head that this could be what it's turned into at that time?
Not initially. I had a discussion with my mom, which was I had terrible attendance rates in school, which I always had. So I skipped half a year for 10 years. So I basically skipped 5 years total of education in school. And it wasn't a problem back in elementary school, so to speak, because like as long as you're there, sometimes, unless your grades aren't terrible, they don't really care too much. But when I ended up finishing 9th grade and then 10th grade and going into the next degree level, it was like if you have over 10%, if you're missing 10% attendance rate, you're gonna get like a conversation or a meeting, and then when you get 15%, you're gonna basically get dropped. And I was like, I'm gonna fail that miserably. So what happened was that I was about 14-15% missing attendance rate, and I had this offer to go to the Pro League finals, right, which is great. And I told them, and they said either you go and we like drop you or we kick you, or you will not go to that tournament, you stay in school. And I was like, okay. And I was like, Mom, I don't know what to do. And she said, if you win, how much money do you win? And I said, well, I get $5,000 basically, right before tax. And at that point she said, well, with that money, you can live paying rent at my place, my mom's place, for about 8 months, give or take, depending on how I spend my money and everything else. And she said, if you win this tournament, I will give you until your money runs out. As long as you pay rent, you can stay in my apartment. As long as that, I'll support your career. But when the money runs out, you got to go back to school, and we can sign you up for next September, basically, a year later. So I went to that tournament, and we won somehow, some way. Kickstart back then, who's now a caster, he was playing. And in the grand final, we faced Sisu, which is actually where a lot of the ends guys and my former teammate Dunas actually played in. So it was like Dunas, Wilkie, Boonsey, Kido Mastery, and Protex. So guys that are still around these days. And we beat them. We got the grand final. I got home, and it was a Sunday. So I slept. Monday morning, I'm eating breakfast, and I'm like, my mom's like, what? Do you want to go to school? Like, I know they said they would kick you, but I'm sure they'll let you come back and all these things. And I was like, I really don't want to go to school, right? I kind of want to pursue this. And that was like, my mom said, as I said before, as long as you can pay rent, I'll support the dream. And that's kind of where it started. And the bad part about that is that we didn't win a single tournament after that point for a year. So we won year 1, season 1, undefeated pretty much. Like we steamrolled it. And then we fell short by like 1 game. We fell short by 2 games, maybe the season after that. And then, roster changes happened. I ended up grouping up with 6 Quadra for the year 1, season 4. So invitational qualifiers. We fell short again in the grand final. We faced Ronix Gaming, which is also players that are still around. And we lost very early. We got a loser bracket. We won every single match of the grand final loser bracket. This is for loser bracket. You start with a 1 map disadvantage. And we get clapped on the first map, Consulate, and we're out of the invitationals. And after that, I wanted to retire. I had played a year. I had won my first tournament. I had failed everything for a year. I was going to towel, in the ring. I was done for. And then, amongst all those roster changes along the way, I had played with Jonas. I had played with Fabian before in the roster. And the rule back then, which just recently got changed, that if you have 3 out of 5 players from a previous season, you have a Pro League spot. And Fabian and Jonas approached me because they'd previously retired, and they said, Nick, if you, Jonas, and I being Fabian, because he contacted me, they said, we could make the best team in the world. We're not going to practice. We're not going to have strats. We're not going to give a damn about anything. We don't give a damn about the meta. We don't care what operators are good. We just play the game because we're so much better. And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, that sounds fun. I mean, who doesn't want to win, right? It's easy. And at the same time, Six Culture had made a French superstar team, like Falco, Livin, Spoken, and Six Culture himself, and me. But I didn't speak English, and they didn't speak French. I didn't speak French, and they didn't speak English, so I wasn't sure how I felt about it. So I ended up taking Fabian's offer or Six Culture's offer, and we won almost every single tournament for a year straight after that. And that's kind of when my career got solidified, and I knew I could stay with it because we had done something proper this time. So yeah,
that's a really long ride. To put things into perspective, because when you just look at medals and trophies, it all looks easy, right?
It does.
But it was an actual road to get there.
It was a. I mean, my goal when I first went pro was to win one tournament because I thought that would be hard to achieve, but it's achievable. It's a small goal, but with a big impact. And I won my first tournament, and then I was like, I'll win the next one, right? And the one after that, and then we just didn't make it. I didn't qualify. We didn't perform well. We had issues, roster changes, and I was like, maybe I flopped. Maybe I just had luck. Maybe I was the problem, etc. And it's really hard, especially back then with so little support from orgs, salaries. It was just us playing games with no coaches, and we're just turning 18, basically, just turning 18, 19. So it's like, how do you reflect upon why you're losing or what you can improve? Because we're just playing the game and either we win or we lose. That was pretty much you flip a coin. And there's a lot of hardships that went into actually turning that around. And ultimately, it came down to a decision between 2 rosters. And because Jonas and Fabian came back from retirement, if I willingly wanted to play with them, we created a dynasty that is pretty much unchallenged to this day in success for 2 years in a row, winning back-to-back invitationals for the first time ever in CT history, and winning every single tournament but a single one, which was year 2, season 3 in Brazil. So we created so much from so little, which is incredible to think about. And when I watch back to those videos and those documentaries, I always tear up, and I can't help it because it has so much value.
It's been an amazing journey, and it just goes to show that, sometimes you have to put it on the line, as you did, with the decision between going to school or just throwing it all in. But what's the future then? What's the future for, G2 going forward and this new lineup? I mean, you've picked up a couple of new people. You've brought one in from the APAC region. It looks like you're going a bit aggressive here, a bit frag heavy. Is that planned, or it's looking quite exciting?
we always wanted to. I think I know for a fact a lot of teams wanted to play with Virtue. He got offers from both NA and European teams like years before we picked him up, and he was like that one player that everybody was looking at, and he declined every offer. And we didn't think he would even entertain the idea because, one, we actually approached these players in a time where we weren't performing that well anymore. It's not like we had our previous success under our wings saying, oh, we've won this and we've won that and we're number one in Europe. No, we were doing really poorly compared to our previous standards. But we ended up with Jake and Ben, so Virtue and Citizen. Citizen as a quote-unquote star player from Na'Vi, and then Jake, who was the quote-unquote star player of Fnatic and APAC, as you said. And we kind of just wanted to change around how Siege is perceived. Previously, the players that we had was Fabian and Goga. During Invitationals, Fabian officially benched himself. So he was going to the bench and he was going to look for a new team. And then Goga was in a position where we wanted to make a core change. And when you change out one player, often what happens is that you're just going to adopt someone. Be like, you're going to learn our strats and our callouts, and you're going to play this operator, and that's your role. Go here, do that, hold this angle, follow my lead. When you change two players, you kind of get to change that core, and you can kind of adopt a lot of what they had to give and what they had to teach us, and we can kind of implement everyone together. And that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to break out the core part and kind of start fresh with very skilled individual players that were capable of winning championships. So it's basically trying to make a superstar team, which hasn't really been done before in Siege to this degree. And you can argue that there's been a lot of failure already and some success already, but it's definitely a different approach than a regular lineup. Like Goga would just always play Thermite, I would always play Smoke, Fabian would be a flex player, Kenzo's injury. It was easy back then. What we're doing now is so much more complex, and I think one team that we can kind of look into is actually Dark Zero and how they approach the game as well, and how constructive they are, or how, I don't know, I feel like they approach the game very differently from other teams, and I feel like we could learn a lot from that, and I also feel like we're kind of trying a little bit of that flair as well in our current roster.
I think it sounds
on
like...
that one.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say it sounds like an exciting experiment.
Certainly.
It's just like, we've only got a couple of weeks to wait until this all kicks off in earnest. I'll hand it over, because there was one more thing I want to ask you, but I'm going to be slightly changing direction, so I'll hand it on over to Zyronic there.
Okay.
With you having such a frag heavy, mechanically skilled team, do you feel like you have to kind of create your own meta and just basically say fuck it to the way that Siege is being played? Because like it's hard to imagine this 20-second meta and the way that teams play very intel based or whatever they might do, that you're gonna fit into that. Like you can't really be put into this box where you have to play up against other teams. You kind of got to decide your own run and then just hope that that's going to work.
Yeah, I think we kind of just want to be... I think we want to be like water is the best example. Like, we kind of want to just do everything. Like, if there's a shape, we'll be the shape, right? We'll just form that way. Like, we want to be able to do, like, fundamentally constructive ABC step gameplay. We want to do aggressive gameplay. We want to do like flex gameplay, which is what everyone wants to do, right? Every single team wants to be able to do all those things. But let's say you have a heavy support player that just doesn't do injury fragging. We had Goga, who was like crazy good injury fragger. He was just put on support because we need a support player. But let's say you don't have Goga. Let's say you have someone that just isn't capable. Like myself, I'm very, very poor at injury fragging. Then you have an issue because that player isn't moldable. He's not flexible to his full extent. He's not being 100% utilized as a flex player. And we basically wanted to make this roster like water, where we can take any player on any role and hopefully with good results. Like, that is the end goal, at least.
It's a Bruce Lee of Siege.
Yeah.
It's a lot
That was the only thing I was thinking of.
Yeah. It's a lot to aim for, and a lot can go wrong, and a lot of people can point fingers or laugh at if it fails, which is, I guess, where the pressure part comes in. And we have had hardships already, and we will face many more hardships in the future. But I think it's been really interesting to approach this, being a pro player for almost 5 years now, because I've always done the same thing with the same players, more or less, and I've never really changed team. But with this roster change, I feel like we're on a new team, on a new journey, and it's a lot of new things to learn, so to speak.
I mean, we've seen that before, though. Youngsters, when they came in,
Yeah, they changed the game.
They kind of looked at everyone and said, "This isn't how we're gonna play Siege," and then they played their own Siege, and that worked.
I would like to believe that Youngtis changed how Siege was played competitively ever since, because they created strats. They created. I no joke. I have 6 quarters Google Drive folder of each strat back then in French, and it literally states step 1, step 2, step 3. You have diffuser. You spawn here after 20 seconds. They played so structured, and then they would also apply counter stratting. And back then, everyone else was playing team deathmatch, running around like, oh, there's a guy here. Let's try and we can kill him. They broke the game apart. Like, it's crazy.
Just along those. I was just one quick question about why we're talking about rosters and stuff. Do you think it's essential to be friends with the people on a roster, or is it just beneficial?
There's actually a clip of me saying, I don't remember what context, but there's a clip where there's myself and then Torquenade. I think it's actually the To Win It All documentary that we did about 2 years ago now, where I said that I viewed my teammates as colleagues, and Troy Canadian then said that he viewed his teammates as like his best friends. And I used to believe that your teammates are just colleagues, right? Like if there's no emotions, it's probably better because you can give criticism, take criticism better, and potentially at least. But at the same time, like nowadays, with the game being so invested, with us being localized, like in Berlin, with other teams having facilities and people like Dark Zero, Gamer House, etc., and that's going to be happening more and more with the pilot program situation, etc. I think you absolutely got to be friends, because bad blood, they break rosters. And if you have all these small things that you hate about a person or just dislike about them, it's going to create friction. And that friction will turn to negativity or bad karma or energy that's negative, any of the kind. And it's just terrible overall, right? You want to be able to be in a neutral, a positive environment where you trust your teammates and you can come to them for help. You can ask them for help. You don't need to feel humiliated or embarrassed by making mistakes. You should feel like they're bringing you up instead. So I think it's super important these days.
I think that what you mentioned there kind of plays into my next question here, because, you know, we talked a lot about your journey through Pro League so far and everything. And I think that the name Pengu and Fabian have been kind of joined at the hip for a lot of that journey. And is there a chip on your shoulder now to win without Fabian and show I can do this without him?
So yes and no, right? So I think the one reason why it's a no is because I did win without him, as Soronic mentioned earlier, right before we started recording this, actually, just chit-chatting. Soronic did mention that I did win the first championship without Fabian. Back then, Fabian was not even in Pro League, so
the best player in the world wasn't in Pro League.
Yeah, where was he, man? Like, he can't be that good if he's not in Pro League. Back when he was an Ashman in Phoenix.
Yeah, he was busy rage quitting a scrim in Phoenix because we ran 5 shields. I have the video.
Oh, that's perfect. I'll believe that for sure. I think for myself, I don't need to prove anything, because I don't see even Fabian now, Vitality. I don't see Fabian as competition. I feel like we're two parts of a legacy that was built together, and I truly hope that both him and myself will find success separately in our respective teams, as well as Fabian and I. We respect each other a lot, and we see each other as friends and arguably family or brothers, and we have been through all the bad stuff and all the good stuff together the entire way through to the end. And I knew there was going to be a point where we had to part ways, although I never expected us to do it the way we did, with us basically being a failure as a team and him stepping down. I thought I would move to America, or he would get a superstar team offer, or maybe one of us would retire because we won too much, or whatever the case might have been. So I don't know. I hope for my own sake that we can maybe prove the fans that Fabian doesn't need us to do well and we don't need Fabian to do well. I hope that the fans can kind of get that story that each respective part did their part of the journey and they can continue to do so. But I think for individual sakes, I don't think it's necessary.
From a viewer standpoint, this is damn near amazing though, because we get to watch the roster just came out now a couple of hours ago on Twitter, the new Vitality roster. So we get to watch you play versus 2 of your former teammates, Goga and Fabian in the new Vitality. And hopefully he can bring some of the G2 Penta shine to that, and we can get some clashes.
Before Pro League, we're gonna get to see that this coming Sunday in Ammunition's charity tournament. It's gonna be me. the three of us plus Fabian's gonna be there too. So I'm gonna donate every time that you teabag Fabian. If you kill Fabian and teabag him, I will be donating personally. Even though I'm participating, I'll be donating. So I've got to see. I'm gonna try and like stoke the flames right there.
I'll keep that in mind. I mean, we scrimmed Vitality a little bit back, not that long ago, and we didn't know that Fabian was there. We generally did not know. And when Fabian joined, I was like, and he joined our team, and so he joined our team in the scrims. We have blue side and red side, and I was like, guys, we're all here, let's go. And Unu's like, no, like Fabian's on our team. I'm like, yeah, he needs to go to that team, of course. It felt natural that he was on our team, right? And it was like
awkward.
We didn't miss anyone because he was there, but we did miss someone. And we scrimmed, and seeing Goga and Fabian together is like the most memey thing ever, because first of all, Vitality as a team, I never ever thought any of them would join, because they just never partook in anything with those players. Like they never played. I mean, I guess Hungary and Goga played together and like Gophers and stuff, with myself included. But like Bibu and stuff, I never saw them interact with each other. I never thought after a breakup that we'd see someone like Fabian and Goga on the same team, because no one is in a team with Junes or Shotzi or anything like that. Like they've always broken into, and that's the same with other teams in North America and Europe as well, is that you typically, when you are either leaving or kicked, you rarely see teammates again on the same team, and they just jumped straight into it. I love that. I mean, I kind of wish I was in that almost, right? Have old friends around.
That has to be the most surprising roster in a long time.
Even for me.
That really came out of nowhere from a viewer point of view, at least.
Yeah, I did not see that one coming. A lot of people were obviously with the rumors and stuff saying, "Oh, Fabian's going to Rogue." That wasn't before Kaseka and Leon Kitts got announced, and it made sense because Fabian and Rise are really good friends. Fabian's girlfriend Valentine lived in Belgium, and like Rise lives there, so like they had beers together and stuff. So like they were close. So I was like, "Yeah, Fabian's to Rogue. That sounds like a sick lineup." And then we scrimmed them, and I see Kaseka and Leon. I'm like, that's not Fabian. Where's Fabian? And then they announced on Twitter that the players. I'm like, okay, I guess Fabian's not going to Rogue. What's happening? And then we find out he's on Vitality. I'm like, damn, he did us dirty, and he did us good.
What would have been funny would have been if he turned up in NA. That would have been just like so hilarious down in Vegas or something, you know.
It takes a lot to go to NA, because like, as a European, like Fabian, if you have like a girlfriend or your family, like Fabian's obviously close with his family as well. Like his mom and dad was also invitationals when we had our hardships and we lost, etc. So I could go maybe like go for America, but Fabian doesn't have anything kind of taking him there. He has so many more reasons to stay. But if the offer is good, I mean, you never know.
You know, I'm thinking with this new structure, we might see a lot more player movement in the future, in the next year or two. Particularly with, like in the EU, you've got the grassroots with the nationals, the countries with the nationals. And then I was thinking, with the spotlight that we're getting in the NA scene at the moment, it seems like the place to be in a way, kind of with what they've got going on compared to, the European League. So what's your thoughts on the European League? And
Sorry, NA is the place. Like, if this is the same format in 2 years, I want to go NA as well. Like you can look back in 2 years from now if you're an NA org, but like Pengu said he wants to join in 2 years, like pick whatever. NA has best of threes on LAN format, which means 0 ping basically. And we got best of ones. We got EU, like we got like CIS region, like we have 70 ping Russians, we have 9 ping German people, we have 40 ping Finnish people. Like we're all over the place, different time zones. I feel like EU has pretty much gotten from a really intensive and highly skilled region, and it still is, but it has gotten into a really poor format that doesn't really favor skill. Like best of ones are already bad, draws are bad. Obviously the ping issue it's always been there. It's not different nowadays. It's just annoying for people that don't like it, which no pros seem to do. And then we see ENA getting all the things that we wanted pretty much, and we'll get it eventually, hopefully, but it sucks. Right?
I think that too, that it's just rolling out there first, and you will get it eventually.
Yeah.
And also,
it's going to be impossible in the EU.
That's what I'm thinking. It will
never happen, because where are you going to localize people? Well, not even that, but the only way we could get something like a LAN league in Europe would be if we localized in Paris only or something like that.
Yep.
And
Could be.
if every team had to move there, something like Paris is way more expensive than some of the other places.
Yep.
Vegas is pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Compared to many other places in the US, right? And we have to move countries, not states.
Yep.
That's a very big thing.
There's the legal side of it. It's
hopefully-
a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have the whole, if you don't move for long enough, like you and I as a Dane, for example, if we have stuff in Denmark and we move to Paris, but we don't like resign our apartment, our car, whatever, we still have to pay tax in the country we're from.
Yep.
So monetarily, it just doesn't add up anymore. You basically need to fully move and lose all commitment to your other country.
Yeah.
And from an EU standpoint, it's a mess if you were to make something that's a full land league. I guess you could travel forth and back, but that's also.
But
Imagine you have to travel for
also,
every
I mean,
game.
you guys
It's
have to remember,
doable.
like, you don't have Chick-fil-A in Europe either. So, like,
No Whataburger,
I mean,
no Wendy's.
how are you gonna take a continent serious that doesn't have Chick-fil-A?
That's a good point, honestly.
Let's not talk about taking places seriously, all right? Let's not open that can of worms right now. Let's not do that.
I want to burn this.
Can we talk a little bit of a meta discussion here, or do you guys want to talk about the format a little bit more? I think where I want to go, like we've talked about Pengu, winning season 1, and how Pro League has changed right there as far as the format. We talked, I think it was the last episode, right, Zoronic, where I threw something out that maybe the game has gone from mostly an FPS to a more utility centric meta, and Zoronic threw something out that really opened my eyes regarding barbed wire and how strong that used to be, and a good counterpoint there. But I want to kind of get your thought on it. Like when you look at playing Pro League from the beginning till now, a lot of people talking about the 20-second meta, the utility meta. Do you feel like what some people say as far as that Rainbow Six Siege resembles less of an FPS now than it used to and more of a MOBA is true?
I think it's true to a degree. I think Jonas put it very, very well on Twitter. He said this year, early this year, he said, Siege nowadays isn't the game that I started playing a long time ago. It was an FPS with extra spice in it. Now it's a busy work and gadget with spice of FPS. So what he's saying basically is that back then you had, your FPS game as a core element, and then you had a few operators and gadgets, like let's say bandage charges, Thatcher, grenades, heartbreach, etc., right? Dynamic walls. Nowadays, you have all these things. Like you have your checklist. Is there a Guman in the store? Element in the store? Is there a Captain in the store? Far Shop on the door? Is there a shield? Is there a Goyo shield? Is there a Maestro Cam? And then you can start shooting heads. But then when you're shooting heads, you're getting spotted, and there's a shield in the way, and you're getting set by Maestro Cam and all these things. And I think it's not necessarily better or worse, right? It's not so much about that contrast. It's more about just the game changing. And change is typically good because who wants to play the same game for 15 years, right? Counter-Strike, how are you so goddamn popular? No one knows. But Counter-Strike does it really well, right? It's so simple, yet so dynamic, and it's been playable for many, multiple decades at this point. Siege, however, I don't think Siege would be as successful as it is right now if it hadn't changed or evolved into a greater thing, because we're standing out. If you want to play Rainbow Six Siege, you gotta play Rainbow Six Siege. If you want to play a MOBA game, you can pick 5 different ones. Sure, League of Legends is bigger than Dota, or Dota has more prize money than League of Legends, but when it comes down to it, you have options. But personally, and I think many people share the sentiment, if you want to play a game like Rainbow Six Siege, you have one game to play, and that is Rainbow Six Siege. And that's why we have gone through so much hardship, and we still are fighting our battles here and there internally with the game, with changes and disagreements. But there is only this one game to satisfy our needs.
That's the thing, though, because that's both good and bad, right? Because that means that if let's say you want a certain change and I want a different one, Pete wants a different one, and Flank wants a different one, like only one of us or none of us is going to be satisfied.
Yeah.
Because we don't have other options in that game. I think we're a little bit at fault as players for not realizing that it would gonna end up here when we knew that there was going to be new operators coming out all the time. Because I can't imagine a world if you look back at some of the year 1 Pro League games we played, and someone told you that there's going to be 20 new operators, we would instantly know that this is going to change massively, right?
Yeah.
Unless they just add another thermite that does nothing different, or just duplicate. But that would never work. It all has to be different.
Yeah.
And I think the way that you explained with you check on if there's an Ela mine, a Goo mine, a Capcan trap. I think maybe Siege has changed from instead of you checking if there was Capcan trap or this or that, now you just check if there's anything.
Yeah.
And then you move on to the next step. Like every room, you need to figure out what operators are on the other side. That's why in competitive it's great to have the flash with the 6-pick, so we get a little bit of an insight on what to plan the round on. Because if that wasn't there, it's probably a lot more stressful at the high level, at least.
Yeah.
If you had to figure out every operator by droning.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine Pro League with Mossy, mute, and no reveal phase.
Yeah, like how are you gonna find out what's behind the wall, right? Like Shanka, like you don't know.
Yeah.
Cav.
Bearing in mind that point, how do you think the switch up to one operator per season is going to change things? Because you're not going to have this constant influx of new utility all the time. Do you think that's going to make it a better thing, or do you think it could make it a bit stale? For like a competitive scene, mostly.
I think it's bittersweet because you mentioned competitive scene. I think for competitive scene it's great because one, we don't have to play along with so many new things. We can kind of just implement one thing at a time. Balancing wise with developers, it's also greater. It's less to focus on. It's less to work. They can just hammer in on that specific scenario. Same with map reworks versus new maps. It's great to get reworks because it's quote unquote less work and it's like we're fixing what we already have instead of just creating more. But for the casual scene, if you paid for the game, which I hope you did because the game costs money, sir, you expect content, correct? And when the game came out, it was a AAA title game. It cost $60, like 60 euros. It cost a premium price. And you also got a premium product. You got X operators, X maps, X features, etc. The game doesn't cost $60/euros anymore. It is still a AAA game in that regard. It's a high quality game made by a big company with big funding or good support. So I think it's fine to say that, okay, we're getting one operator a season. We're getting some reworks, some new maps. Nowadays, you have battle passes, right? You have you have these arcade modes that are coming out. You have a lot of content that isn't just 2 new operators every 3 months, right? 1 new map every 3 months. You actually have these dynamic changes that are coming throughout the seasons. Then you have some of these packs that comes with the arcade modes that people aren't necessarily a fan of. It's expensive, it's pay to win, whatever term you want to use. But you're getting content, you're getting things to do, things to spend money on, and most of them are also obtainable with in-game currency renown. If you grind your life away at Siege, you can buy them for free. I think it's great, but I do think it's a little bit bittersweet because some people want more.
I hear you on that because, yeah, I can see from a competitive standpoint why you might welcome that. I think the sort of counter argument from the casual point of view is if you bought this game for $30 2015, you had, I don't know, 20 operators, right? Or however many there were. And if you buy it for the same amount of money now, you get God knows how many. So, I mean, you get a hell of a lot of content, really, for what you're paying, considering all the operators that are now in the game. But I think, in a way, when you consider it like that, it perhaps was inevitable that they was going to have to slow down the release of some operators here with what's going on.
So you got to remember the trade as well, though, right? Because sure, you're only getting one operator, but we're getting Ping 2.0. We're getting replay system.
Yeah.
We're getting chunker rework. There's quite a lot in that gap where that one operator would be. That might, I mean, I think even for competitive, Ping 2.0 will change competitive quite a decent amount as well. Because the fancy stuff you can do when you can mark something through a wall now, like completely perfectly mark it, is probably gonna at least up the skill ceiling a bit as well, right?
It's a good, nice quality of life change, and they're doing that. Quality of life updates are coming. They're bug fixing like no other before. I think balance updates are bigger than ever, I would say. So you might see less content, but in reality, there's a lot of content. It's just not directly in your face.
And let's be real. I mean, as far as the impact on Pro League, we were lucky to have one operator per season have an impact. I mean, when you look at it over the last 2 years, the operators that were released, could you even say that one operator per season had an impact? Sometimes, I mean, you got ones like Goyo, which were severe, and then you've got one, and then you got I mean, I guess we haven't even seen Orcs and Yana yet, how that's going to play out. But, I think to say that, if the one operator per year actually has an impact, both on ranked and in Pro League, then I don't know that we're necessarily losing anything from actually a game how the game's going to be impacted from 2 operators to 1.
Well, counterpoint to that one, we haven't seen a single season where none of the operators were played.
Like not a
Or
single
used.
time.
No, like all of them did something in terms of Pro League every single season.
Yeah, like
Even
at
if you
least
take
one
Nook,
of the 2 operators, right?
Yeah, at least one of the 2 operators had an actual noticeable change in meta, because something like Nook, even in her like, oh my god, she has an FMG9, she's shit state, she still forces the guy who was sat on site as an anchor watching cams to like change a little bit how he's doing it, because if there was any way to get through or any weakness in your setup, all of a sudden you have a Nook on site killing your anchor, or a guy sneaking down. I think who was that sneaking down 90 hallway on on coastline
against us.
Like that. yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, so you remember.
I remember.
Like it's terrifying because this
lost.
That was a bit close to home.
That you would never have to worry about before.
No, never.
And I think Nook is probably the best example. Warden would have had a bigger impact if Ying was in her busted state.
I mean, if he came out 3 months prior, he would have been picked every round because Ying Glass was the thing, right?
Exactly.
Bad timing.
Yeah, I don't think there's any season we've had since Mira where every new operator hasn't had a noticeable impact right after grace period.
No, I think there's always been one or the other for sure that's had a good impact. I'm trying to just look over a list right now, just like skimming through it, and I don't see any reason where like there's been seasons like Finga. Okay, she wasn't that strong, right? There's that. Warden,
except for Latam and APEC.
Except Latam APEC did play her. Yuna from FaZe was a Finga main, etc. I guess there's kudos to them for making it work. We couldn't. Like Warden didn't see a whole lot of play, but as we said, it was mainly because he's very niche operator, and the niche he was good for just got nerfed. So really unfortunate timing. But other than that, you always see operators that are of high value, like Oryx right now, coming to next season, for example. He doesn't seem great. He seems for some maps, for some scenarios, with some strats, you can play him, right? But then you see Ayana. Ayana is like arguably a game changer on how you can intro drone, intro frag, refrag, etc. And she has frag grenades, which allows, the whole nade dynamic with Buck losing them to be changed a little bit. So she might have a huge impact.
I'm really excited to see you guys get your hands on her. I really am.
I want to say it could be possible we could see G2 running like Ashe, Yana, Nook. Like, do you know what I mean? Like
all the killer operators.
Yeah.
Like, nah, they're gonna run IQ and Amaru G8 all the time.
Oh,
Amaru
I'll tell you what.
Haha, Amaru Brr.
Yeah,
I like that.
I'm looking forward to that. Like, I think next season's gonna be really fun. I like both of the operators. What are your thoughts on the operators there, Pengu? Melusi and Ace.
All right, so Melusi is probably the most impressive operator since Lions release, in my opinion. So that one, I'm not particularly happy.
How do you hope Melusi launches? Let's start there.
So it can go many ways, right? I think in a perfect world, if I could choose to design her, I would make her interactive in the same way that a Maestro Cam is interactive, right? Imagine a Maestro Cam would constantly spot you whenever you're within line of sight. That's kind of what Melusi is. Whenever you're within line of sight, you get slowed, there's a sound cue, you're being oppressed. It's not fun. So I would want to make her like Maestro, where you either have like a camera or like a Dokkaebi camera, or you can like click the button and it activates like a toggle mechanic like Vigil or Caveira or Clash. It has a refill bar when it's not active, so that if you have a guy near a jammer or near a Melusi gadget, he can say, yo, Melusi, can you activate it? I'm going to make a play here. Or they're pushing, can you activate it? Instead of just being slap it down, run away, and then like it just automatically does the most perfect play every single time as an AI unit. I'm not a fan of that. It's like a Claymore on steroids times 20, because it doesn't kill you, but it gets you killed, so to speak.
I thought about like I like what you mentioned there, because that also adds to the playmaking aspect as the Melusi player. So if I do something and get a kill with that gadget, I made a play. I didn't just set it down and
stood out.
Allowed somebody to run into it. I've talked before, I think it was on here. What about if her gadget did not it only made noise for the attackers? So whenever an attacker walks into it, the attacker would have the same effect it does right now, but defenders would not get any audio cue whatsoever that somebody was in it. I think that could, if they don't want to make it a workable device like you mentioned, I think that's something that could, because right now my issue is it it goes against your movement, and it also gives information. So it's like a legion in a lot of ways. Only, legions are easier to get rid of, and if you see them. So
one of the problems with that, because I remember we talked about this. I was basically a little bit on your end as well, Pengu, where I wanted them to either toggle one of them, so you basically go through. One is permanently toggled, and then you can change which one is active.
Oh yeah.
I think if you make it so sound only happens to one side, it becomes so frustrating to play against, because if you start linking it with other utilities so you know when it's there, they can't hear you peaking. At least now, both people hear this whoop whoop, and both, like, everyone knows that this is happening.
Yeah.
For the attacker going down there, not being able to hear anyone run around them at all, but the defenders being able to hear footsteps clear as day, might actually be a buff to Melusi.
Yeah. It's very, because you think you have the advantage because you're sneaking in. But in reality, you can't hear anything, and they can hear everything, right? In the ideal world, that is. I think it's a really tough cookie to crumble with Melusi specifically. I think she's going to be really hard to satisfy in terms of balancing, but she does worry me a lot. It's like issue with Lion was that when we were at this was in year 2 season year 2.
Year 3 season 1.
It must have been year 2 season 3 when we lost against Doki.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was what's it called? Not Raleigh, the other North American, New Jersey. What was it? Where were we?
Atlantic.
In the world? Atlantic. There we go. Atlantic City.
Yeah.
We played against
Budget
Liquid.
Vegas.
Yeah, and they played Lion Doki every round. And that's the story. I'm just like triggered thinking about it. It's a hard thing. It's before banning phase was a thing. They could run it all they wanted. We couldn't stop them. I have night terrors over that. But anyway, the point is, in the backstage when we were practicing, we were playing Lion every round because that's what everyone did. And Fabian's monitor died mid-scrim. Like, we're playing Coastline, he picked Lion, his monitor goes, pew, right, black screen. We're like, admin, we need help. And they take the monitor, they unplug it, they walk away. Fabian has a keyboard and a mouse mat. And we're like, oh, we should rehost. It's 4v5, there's no point. Fabian's like, I can still use my gadget, it's 5v5. And we're like, okay, guys, it's Coastline. We're going to rush and ping with the first line charge, rush and kitchen with the second line charge, and plant with the third. And we're like, Fabian, you ready? And he has his mouse in his hand. He's like, yeah, 3, 2, 1, middle mouse button. And we won I'm not even kidding you. It sounds so scripted. We pretty much won flawlessly 4 versus 5 without a monitor, because Fabian got the exact same amount of value from his gadget as anyone else with a monitor would. And Fabian, as the best player in the world, that's an excuse that, okay, he's just so good. But the issue is, it could have been my mother, Fabian, or a dog with the mouse, and it wouldn't have changed the outcome, because as long as you press the middle mouse button with a countdown, you have gotten the same outcome, because it's AI-based, it's global, it doesn't have any impact on skill, or it doesn't get impacted by your skill. Melusi for me is the same, in the sense that if someone who has never played Siege before, okay, sure, they can put their gadget in less value areas, less high traffic areas, etc. But anyone that's played Siege just a little bit will understand where to put them just for some value. And whether you're an extremely good player or extremely average player, which most people are, and there's nothing wrong with that, you'll get the same value in the same position of the gadget, because your decision making doesn't change it. Your skill doesn't change the outcome. And that's what frustrates me as a pro player, because it's all about the skill. Like, we grind, we want to get better and improve ourselves because it should matter. For some people, I understand that maybe it's more fun because you get the same value, but it's kind of like saying that if you play 10 hours a day, you should never be put in the same queue as people that play 5 hours a day, because you play double the amount of time, so you're double as good, right? That's not fair. But matter of the fact is, whether you play 5 or 10 hours at the time, you can still be in the same matchmaking elo range. And we all choose how we want to play the game, but I do think that majority of people want to have an impact on the gameplay that they have available.
What about the other one? What about Ace? Are you a bit happy about him, or you feel...
I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are like losing their minds on Twitter, but I feel like Ace is kind of fun.
Yeah.
My only issue is he's really loud. Like, the gadget animation is like Thermite times 4. And the duration is also times 4. So it's like, boom, and then it just goes like a lot of times. I do understand that he's a little bit like Maverick. He can deny bandit juggling if there's a soft floor. He can flow the gadget on the floor. It breaks the bandit on mute charge behind the wall. Then you breach the wall. But you can impact trick it. You can maestro slash shoot it. You can bandage/kite trick it. It is counterable. Besides making an awful lot of noise, I actually don't feel too bad about him. Besides his weapon, having the AK-12 on Fuse was like great gun and a bad operator. But having AK-12 on Ace seems really deadly without a nerf. It does have
Seems
like
really
the
fun.
best stats the entire. It does seem very fun to play. It doesn't seem fun to play against. Like I personally would be perfectly fine if they made it from 45 damage to like 41 or 40 flat per bullet. I would be happy with Ace as he currently is without knowing that much about him.
Are all the Ash main entry fraggers like fighting over Ace and scrims? Like
everyone is fighting over Ace because it's like when Maverick came out, all the Ash players, like Leon Gates was like the biggest Maverick main when he came out because he loved the gun. But then people realized that okay, maybe Maverick isn't fun because I need to breach walls and I can't die early and But Ace is like you just yeet it, right? I'm like, oh, you're on a breach, boom, 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 and then. Brrr. And then it's like, oh, I've breached the wall. I've killed 2 enemies. Like, I have smoke grenades. You know, I'm a 2-speed operator. Yeah. You have a lot of fun in your pocket. That's for sure.
I think we're going to see the same with Ace as we saw with Mav. Everyone's losing their mind, going, oh, this is OP. There's no counter. Can't do anything. And then within a month, you're just going to see Mav players get clapped. They make holes. People realize, oh, you can always throw C4 out of a Mav hole no matter what. Like, one dot with Mav, you can throw C4 out. It's no one else's fault that you don't know how to line it up.
Yep.
And then you just see Mav players die on like the server wall on Clubhouse over and over and over again. Think about how many times Ace is going to get his team killed.
Yeah.
He opens a wall too fast. It gets impact tricked. Now you have like an elevated, basically one-way C4 slot, right? That I think it's going to be hilarious to see.
I think it is because it's actually the first. It's kind of similar with Maverick, like you said. It's not a reliable breach. Like if you put down a thermal charge and it goes off, you know what you get. If you put down a Hibana charge, okay, you can shoot pellets, but you still kind of get the idea. But with Maverick and with Ace, you're freestyling, right? And you're just kind of going for it, and you get some interesting scenarios. And even in Pro League, even years after Maverick's release, we still see pro teams and pro players struggle with using the Maverick correctly and also just getting challenged a lot on those holes that he's making.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to point at anyone, but we saw one in Invitational that was running Mav that I think he got 1 in 3 walls open.
Oh boy!
I
was
don't
like
think
this.
I was
it was
saying
just a
Maverick
6.
page,
it was just a 6 sack on the wall.
Yeah,
that was tough. Like 3.5 for a hatch on the canister.
Not efficient, but as long as you get the job done, you get.
Yeah, as long as it gets open.
Yep. It's true.
Yeah, I think that when we're looking at the operators coming with Steel Wave, Melusi and Ace kind of represent like the polar opposites in terms of operator design that I appreciate. And this is like personal choice, but I look at Ace and I respect the hell out of that operator design because look at the number of interactions he has. Look at the amount of creativity you have with him. And not only like if an Ace is on the other team, it empowers a defender, which I think is a great sign for operator design. You know, any operator that's on defense with an impact grenade can make a play now because Ace is on the board. And when Ace opens up that hole, you use your impact grenade, you made a play. You have a probably a little bit of serotonin, you know, that gets injected there because you made a cool play. And that's beautiful. Melusi, set it and forget it gadget.
Yeah.
3-speed, high fire rate, low recoil gun. And I just think that's really all you need to say about it. It's going to be, I really think you're going to see Jaeger mains and that style, Ela mains, that style of player gravitate towards Melusi. And again, that's just kind of polar opposites for me as far as operator design.
I think the only defense for that one is when you look at defense, 99% is set it and forget it, right? And I think for most of the community, which is super important and always will be because they are, at the end of the day, the only ones that watch competitive, right? Mm-hmm. So comp wouldn't exist if little Jeff isn't happy about the game as well. But almost everything on defense is set it and forget it.
Yeah.
Jaeger, it takes no skill either. Mm-hmm. You place your ADS, and as long as it's in the like trajectory of where something could get thrown, it will give you some sort of benefit, right?
Yeah.
Even if it takes the 2 flashes that they used only to burn the ADS, that's still kind of a win.
Yeah.
Because they can't burn the next one, and then they can't destroy the Melusi or the Maestro Cam or whatever. I do think they should make it so you have to interact to get something out of it.
Yeah.
But I don't think they can make it too advanced either, because defenders have a really rough time dedicating time to being active on their things, right? I don't know how many people have like played a lot of Echo, but playing Echo is not as easy as people think.
It's scary.
Yeah, like you're sitting there, have no clue about what's going on around you, and you're relying on 2 other teammates to make sure that you don't get clapped.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, if you do that with Melusi as well, that's fine. But then you basically can't play Echo and Melusi in the same time, or at least they won't be effective.
Yeah.
This idea of having like Echo, Maestro, Valk is cool and all, but there is a point where too much intel doesn't help you.
Yeah.
Because you can't dedicate the people to it.
From a casual solo queue, Melusi makes Echo much more playable. Because you're not...
Fair.
Yeah, you're going to get a little warning. Do you know what I mean? That shit's coming down the line. You touched a little bit there on Jaeger, so I'd be really interested to see what your thoughts are on Jaeger, because I've got a feeling like he's just so essential that the team being a 2-2. I mean, are we seeing any change in scrims and stuff, or is that just
the 2-2 scenario specifically?
Yeah, and we could touch a little bit on some of the other changes too. Sorry, my USB thing just went off.
So good.
Can you hear me?
The 2-2 change in my eyes, personally, is a buff. For the simple reason that you move slightly slower, and you also take slightly less damage, right? You're sacrificing armor for speed, basically. And I do think that being a 2-2 operator is actually the most balanced version of the character. I've always said that Twitch and Mute, Smoke, etc. are great for this reason, because you have the best amount of speed versus damage taken. And when you're a 3-speed, that's often we see like the 5-speed Ashe and 5-speed Yane memes, because they move really fast when you're a 3-speed running. When you're a 2-speed, it's much more forgiving when you're fast peeking corners, when you're going crazy, etc. And not a single player in my team has been like, oh my god, I'm a 2-speed now. I can't run out and spawn peek. I can't put down my 3 ADSs. You can argue that there is a slight difference that if you have a really tight route, you gotta go over there, put an ADS, and here and then there, reinforce the walls, put down 2 barbed wires. You can argue that on some maps, having a 3-speed would, trim off a few seconds, and it would be massively appreciated. But what about Mutant Castle? They don't have that. They got 3 castle barricades, and you have a shotgun on castle now as well. So shotgun duty. You have bulletproof for impacts. Mute has 4 mute jammers, 2 reinforcements, shotgun holes to make. When you're playing Mute, you're reinforcing walls 30 seconds into the round in Pro League with people shooting windows and rappelling on you. Like, oh no, I hope I don't die. So it really hasn't changed much. If anything, I think that it's made the parallel between Wamai versus Jaeger more even, because people went, oh, but Jaeger's at 3-speed, so he's better. But Wamai has a shield. Now they're both 2-speeds, and statistically speaking, the AUG, despite being a very hated weapon and disliked weapon, it's actually statistically better than Jaeger's weapon now. And they're both 2-speeds. So you can argue that Wamai is actually better than Jaeger, technically in some areas at least.
And Wamai can do things and abuse the gadget against the attackers, which Jaeger never can.
No, he's just
if you hide a Wamai the right place, you can make the attackers clear the room. Yeah. Because they throw a nade in and they have to back out. Yeah. Or you can stop a fire arrow on Clubhouse, so you don't have to ban Kevitao anymore, right?
The same with Sophia stuns, actually. Wamai, the way that Wamai interacts with Sophia stuns is different than Jaeger, because if you Sophia through the drone hole and you Wamai trigger it, the Wamai will catch the Sophia stun. With the ADS, a lot of the time, depending on the trajectory angle, it'll just hit the player instead before the ADS, and it'll just pop up anyway. And sometimes when you're not playing ADS with Sophia, you just stun a player when you don't mean to. And sometimes when you want to stun the player, but the ADS gets it, it's not like consistent. But Wamai is a very reliable operator. The range is huge. Counters Capital, as you said. There is the only downside to Wamai would be that if you catch a Yinkandela, it goes bra 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 in the air, right? Whereas Jaeger just
unless you shoot it,
right? Unless you shoot it.
But it's also
not that easy, I guess.
It's also tough to stack like on window. You know what I mean? I feel like one ADS on a window is 2 projectiles.
Yeah.
But stacking 2 magnets on a window isn't necessarily equal, in my opinion. One grenade might take it out, but I don't know.
What you often do is that you basically confuse the enemy, because when you throw one flashbang and it gives ADS, you're like, I'll throw another one. That's one gone. Then you throw your third for good measure. Okay, it's gone now. Now there's one more ADS. I know that. But you can throw 3 flashbangs, only one gets Womite, because you can throw it when the first flashbang comes, and by the time the third one comes, it activates. It catches the third ADS, or third flashbang, sorry. Now you don't know if there's another Womite or an ADS behind it, because you can trick it and throw it. You don't got to be stuck in animation. Yeah. And unless you're playing IQ and you're coordinating this, which requires very high-level players, you just don't know for sure what you're throwing your stuff in towards. But with ADS, it's just very linear in that regard. That's the only difference there. But
in my potato ring, that messes people up, because when we open, let's say, server window on Clubhouse, and I'm about to nade the batteries off the wall, someone throws 2 flashes in. First flash gets caught by a magnet, and they're like, okay, it's clear. Yeah. But exactly on the second flash, the next magnet hits, and it's active by the time my grenade goes in.
Yeah.
So unless you time that perfectly, like if the guy pre-flashing for you to burn is too quick, you're basically just out of luck.
Yeah.
And then you end up making a hole in the floor that you might not have wanted, that they can then use later, and things get real messy.
Yeah.
Do you think, I just had a kind of a random thought here, would the game be better off if they never changed how Hibana's gadget interacts with ADSs?
That's
the ability for Hibana's X-Kairos to clear ADSs. Do you think the game would be better off today if that still existed?
Maybe.
Because Hibana might need some love at this
point. Back then.
I was going to say, in the specific circumstance of a 20-second meta with 3 Gory Shields and Maestros and stuff, I wouldn't mind it, honestly. I wouldn't. But there is one part of me that's like, it is so wrong to use a heart-breaching tool to clear ADSs with. But it's just smart in a way, right? It's efficient. I don't know how to feel about
some love right now. I mean,
Sorry.
I don't dislike the idea, but it's weird to me, you know?
Wait, did you say Hibana needs some love?
She might need some love. You know, there's another hard breacher coming in that can hard breach from distance. You know, I mean,
she's the queen of hatches, though. She can get 3 hatches. No one else can.
Hatches, yeah.
I'm disallowing it. There's no way Hibana is getting a buff.
She's strong. She has a lot.
She is way too good.
Fairy 9, ACOG primary, angle grip, flashbangs, or Claymore?
No Claymore anymore.
Oh, no Claymore. I wouldn't know. Breaching charges?
Breaching charges or flash. Yeah, that's what she has. Sure. It's just remember the series of nerfs that Hibana encountered over that stretch of time, like that change that we mentioned. She used to be able to clear ADSs. Yeah. She used to be much harder to bandit trick. She used to be able to open a hatch. She used to be able to open a hatch with 1 X-Kairos. That was it. You didn't need 4. Her Bearing 9 used to be one of the best guns in the game, and she used to have a Claymore. And that all happened within a span of 3 months. I'm like,
hatch change didn't do anything.
What's that?
Like the one with the 4 on the hatch didn't really do anything. Because the few places where you could open with 1 pellet, what you do now is you place them and then you open and then you just shoot the mute jammer through the 1 hole and then you click again.
The only thing
there is one scenario where it changed, right? Because Clubhouse, the hot drop is one thing, because you take less damage. But the kitchen and Clubhouse where you're impact tricking, if you nowadays, if you just destroy a couple pellets, the hatch won't open. But if just 1 pellet survived before, it would open despite that. So very, very, very rare circumstances does it matter for a hatch, but I think it's the only.
Yeah, they also gotta mess up, right? Like the defenders gotta whiff their impacts. Yeah. Because if you throw your impact right on both sides,
you'll get it.
You are guaranteed to get it. It might have changed a little bit how, if defense is using 2 per charge, 2 impacts per charge, or if they're gambling the 1.
No, I would say they just gamble the 1.
If you're hot dropping, whether you're taking 16 damage or 4 damage, doesn't matter. Right?
No.
As long as
we mentioned earlier that Amaru buff, and one thing that I've been thinking about a lot recently is you look at Amaru, you look at Nook. I think there are 2 operators, obviously that do completely different things, but I kind of clump them together in that if you're bringing them on attack and you don't get kills, what did you do for the team? Amaru, has a little bit of soft destruction. Nook has the frag, so you could make the case that there is some utility that they could possibly bring there. Yeah. But with the Amaru buff, is that part of the thought process? Like, if we're trying to fit Nook in to the lineup, is it just like it's really tough to do because if we don't get a kill, they didn't do any good for us as a team?
I mean, generally, how I can't speak for every team, but how we always approach it and how everyone I've spoken to approach it is mainly that you will have your core lineup, right? And let's say that you're playing Clubhouse. Well, you need 2 Heartbreachers. You need a Thatcher if it's open or a Maverick if it's not open. And then you can arguably say you have +2. Well, what is the +2? Well, in the current meta, we have a lot of shields and self-destruction, so we want to have at least an Ashe or a Sophia. And then, okay, on most maps, there's vertical play involved, so we want to have a Sledge or a Buck. Buck doesn't have nades anymore. Sledge is high priority. People play Sledge Shotgun sometimes to do vertical play. So it's about the pluses. On a map like Coastline, where you're doing the Heartbreacher, you always have a +1 extra on any other map because you don't need to run a Heartbreacher exclusively. And if Hibana isn't available, you probably don't want to run them at all, even consider it. So on Coastline, which is where we see the most Nook being played actually, is a map where you have +1s to spare. And Amaru is probably similar. If you don't need something specifically, if you don't need nades, you don't need like a Nomad for flanks, you could pick the Nook, you could pick the Nomad, but you can always pick Ashe or Sophia or like a nade operator because they just give you something to the team for yourself that also enables the franking power.
Or maybe a Ying now too.
Or yes, Ying. I mean, Capital, etc. I think things that helps. Glass Monty, Blitz, whichever way you want to go. And typically what we do is that, like, the reason why the Ying and Glass meta was so powerful, and same with Dokkaebi and Lion meta, not only were they very strong operators individually and combined, but in the meta game back then, you didn't need to pick all these certain operators because the meta game wasn't that heavy. Nowadays, you need to pick the Maestro if he's open. You need to pick the Echo if he's open because they're just so strong. Back then, that wasn't necessarily the case.
You didn't have bulletproof cams, and you didn't have Maestro cams. That really helped with the Glass meta.
That did help with the Glass
meta. You didn't know if they were actually there, right?
Massive.
I don't think Glass meta would work today.
Probably wouldn't, to be honest with you. If you had all the things... Strong,
yeah, like combining bulletproof and I mean walk, right?
Yeah,
combining all of that, then it probably wouldn't work today. Which is one of that almost goes full circle back to like the fact with we get operators that come out, even though Warden isn't being used that much.
Yeah,
he is actively gatekeeping this from ever happening again.
That's a very good point.
Which is
very, very good
actually
point.
The nuclear terror.
Even if he never sees play, that's enough reason to have him exist, right? I think Amaru and Nook do change something whether they get kills, though. Because they force the defending team to be ready for something that really sucks.
You gotta respect it.
If you're playing Cafe and you're sitting up on a cocktail, your Echo sitting in C3 or whatever you want to call the cocktail desks, your Echo sitting in there can't be on his drone, just chilling.
Yeah. And
because within a second, Amaru can be there gunning him down. What does it take now? Less than, 300 milliseconds from when you're up the hatch to you can shoot?
Yeah, it's fast.
Like, you can't even get off cam in that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was kind of a light bulb moment for me where what were you just talking about there, Pengu? I almost feel like that is a message that should be passed around more almost. And I don't know if it's from Ubisoft or who, but if you looked at an operator, hey, we're introducing a new operator. This is a +1 operator. And if you actually like looked at them at that and not, because I think that there's a lot of players like myself, every operator that's introduced, I look at it and I'm like, I want this operator to have an impact. I want this operator to be an operator that I can pick every round. You know what I mean? And that's not realistic. It's really not, especially when you're looking at 100 operators. So if from the get-go, the message was, hey, we're introducing a new +1 operator. And there were these operators in the game that were recognized as +1 operators, like a Nook, like an Amaru, some other operators that you want to lump into there that, you're not going to be able to justify them every round. They are very situational. Then I think it might actually temper expectations and, maybe people could take pride. Hey, I main a +1 operator. Yeah. So I'm super creative in how I main a +1 operator. I think that's a really cool message.
We have that. We have that in Flex. Everyone knows it. We just don't have a word for it.
Well, we do, but if you're a Flex player, you'll often pick between, let's say, 5 that are like not needed, but very high value. Like you want to pick the Twitch, the Sophia, the Ashe. You want to pick the IQ if they have information. Yeah. But you're not going to see people flex an Amaru, right? You're not going to see people flex a Nurgle unless you're aces. Not. It's very unlikely. But you see certain people flex the Muncie or the Blitz in high level play, where it's unheard, or like not unheard. Muncie is more common. Certain players play him, but you don't really see Blitz in competitive play, although it can be done. And it's not so much because Blitz is absolutely terrible. He is kind of terrible, but it's not the reason. The reason is that if I pick the Blitz, my team loses something for it. We lose the soft breach, we lose the grenades, etc. And I think it's a good point with the +1 flying, because expectations, right? A lot of people go, oh, Nuke is useless. I mean, why would I play when I can play Sophia? It's so much more fun. But that's not really the point, because if every single operator had the same value or near same value, how would you ever establish a meta game or a priority system anywhere, right? There's a reason why we pick a hot breach, because they can do what they're good at. And then what's the counter? And so, well, the bandit, kite, the mute, etc. How do we counter those? Or Thatcher, Kalia, vertical play. So we create a meta game because there's a priority list of what's strong and what's weaker and how do we affect the game. And it's
But do you really think we need do we need to tell people that when an operator comes out? I kind of like the idea of something comes out and we got to figure out if it's useful. Because I don't care what the devs say. This operator is meant for this and this. Bandit wasn't meant for bandit tricking.
No. And that's his only purpose.
That's his only purpose, right?
Yeah.
I think it's super important that an operator comes out and we just look at it at face value, and then we make all the mistakes we can, and a year down the line we realize the true potential of this operator. I mean, who knows? Maybe one day we're gonna see a no hot breach meta. However insane that sounds, maybe that will one day be a thing. Because we've created these rules that, well, Siege has to be played this way. Yeah. But every single, and I'm sure you can attest to it, every single time someone has done something big, it's because they looked at that and said, it doesn't have to be that way.
No, that's how you change the meta. That's how people played Glass Ying, because people thought, we don't gotta play this strat. We can play Glass Ying and just brute force it, right? And that's how you change. And League of Legends is a good example, because when they release a character, they will often say, this is a jungler, this is an AD carry, like that's their roles in that game. And then within a few weeks or months or sometimes years, you see that character getting abused in a complete opposite aspect, right? You see a hot breacher being interfragging is the comparison to Siege, because the devs had an idea and a purpose with this character, but somehow, somewhere, someone broke this idea into a different concept and just figured out that it excels in a different area than not directly anticipated.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah. And maybe the thing is the community needs to understand and accept that it's okay for operators to be a +1 operator. You know, maybe that's the direction that we need to go. Like, it's okay for operators to be situational, and there's going to be times when you're gonna, most of the time you're gonna have to bring this kind of core lineup that does this utility purpose and this meta. But there's going to be this handful of operators that are always going to kind of fit into that +1 situational presence, and that's okay.
Yeah, you also have to remember for most of, when we're saying like the community, most people don't play Siege in that way.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people are playing Siege, but at least let's say there's 60 million. For at least 55 million of them, it doesn't matter if you have an Ashen and Sophia, or if you have a Sledge instead, or what operator you have. As long as you kind of have something like a Heart Breacher and maybe a little extra, you're going to be fine. And it's not really going to change if you win or lose that game. So I think it's dangerous to expect people to understand how the game should be played at the best level. Yeah. You do the same with League. If you look at League, and most people that played are Dota, like they're just following, okay, this is a tank. That's definitely going to be played as a tank and nothing else. Then you look at the highest level of play, maybe that's, the DPS or whatever. That's kind of like, it's important to separate exactly where people decide the meta, and then what all the people that just play for fun.
Yeah. Ultimately people want to have fun, and I don't think every character should be equally strong, nor do I think that every character should even necessarily be viable. And we see that in Sashanka, right? He's like the biggest meme ever. and then with the rework, they wanted to make him have a presence in the game. And I was very surprised, because I thought he would never get changed. I thought he was just going to be this meme, like glorified statue of a god that we had in the game, that everyone understood. If you picked Sashanka, you don't mean business, you mean fun.
You just picked him at the Invitational.
Okay, so to be fair, it worked. It was dude, listen, we were like watching strats. We're like, the way these guys hold cigar, I bet we can fuse it and then play glass, and Monty just pow. Sorry, I'm thinking about the glass fuse strat, not the Tachanka strat. Sorry, Uno had an idea. He was like, if you pick shields and ATSs and a Tachanka turret and you hide it, like you don't let them join me, that'll work as well. But we also did diffuse glass strat, which also worked perfectly.
The Chenka one was
They
Cafe
could
too,
remove the
though.
shield from
It was like,
Tachanka.
yeah, they were both
We
cafe.
were laughing.
Yeah.
They couldn't remove the shield.
No,
No, you won that round with the Tachanka,
We
right?
did. We won the fuse glass strat and we won the Tachanka strat. Won them both.
I think they had to
You
change
were
him though,
wrong.
Pengu. Chenka,
They had
'cause-
to.
Yeah.
They had to.
And I think he was really demanding on resources and stuff every season. JB was saying that like they always had to work on Chenka, an operator that isn't even being bloody used.
Yeah.
Kind of like Clash now.
Whoa.
in all fairness,
yeah.
that's the only good reason to change him.
Yeah.
That's the only one I accept at least. It's okay. He was too expensive to keep doing for getting nothing out of.
Yeah.
But
Gets people
there's nothing
excited,
wrong
though,
with
Alex.
having some. Sure, but every game you can think of is going to have something that's like shit tier.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
CS has guns that are never going to be used.
Yeah.
Siege have secondary guns that will never see use.
Yeah.
I mean, we have attachments that are arguably not worth using ever.
For now.
And at least Tachanka had such a big meme value in the community. Like if he starts actually becoming a top tier, something we see in Pro League, that's gonna be a little weird.
It is gonna be weird. In a good way, maybe though, perhaps, right?
Yeah, I guess we need a new like bottom tier operator.
I mean, I'll slap Kivera down there. She can go down the bottom. I don't care. When people play
Now
her,
that,
it
now that
annoys
Eunice
me,
isn't
but-
on your team, right?
Yeah. I mean, Eunice did it first. That's all that matters.
Was that on Oregon? I think I remember that.
I remember
Eunice
on Bank against
on
EG.
Bank.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Bank against EG, Paris major final. It was a bloodbath.
He's getting the
Small
interrogation
office, right?
going like this. He's
Yeah,
going
he was like,
next.
That was in small office by the hatch, wasn't it?
Yeah, so he flanked
right.
up main stairs, killed the first flanker somehow. Then snuck past the claymore because he snuck past two
he's
claymores because he's colorblind.
Yeah.
Fabian dies the second claymore because he didn't realize it was there. He kills the first guy in small box, endures the second, interrogates. It was huge, like it was massive. First time in a major tournament that's happened before on PC at least. Speaking of like developers not dictating characters at face value and all that stuff, we have a difficulty rating in Siege on every operator. It's 1 to 3 stars, I believe, and it is
I can
not
explain
something
that
that
for you.
people talk about. You can explain. I would love to hear it actually.
It's based off the difficulty for the first 15 hours of play.
Okay.
So if people come in having no idea, how likely are they to play this and mess up stuff for the other team? So
Mhm.
it's not so much for I think Castle is pretty high up there, for example.
Yeah, I mean
because he can
that makes
really
sense.
screw up a setup, right?
Yeah.
But operators that aren't needed are pretty low on the difficulty ratings. Operators that are like very impactful, like heartbreakers and stuff like that, are probably a little higher, because your experience coming in as a new player, I'm assuming that everyone that's played for 50 hours are never going to look at a difficulty rating. No one cares, right?
Yeah.
We don't have different HP bars and stuff like that. The newest player don't want to come in there and be like, oh, this is cool, and then he's blocked everyone in with Castle.
Yeah.
So it's only for the newest players.
Okay.
That whole thing.
That's interesting because I always looked at it and I was like, it's hard because I didn't know what it was based off of. And obviously
Yep.
my ideas and expectations to players are different from new players, especially. And I was like, this is a too difficult. In whose world is this difficult? And I can never, even if I really would like to, so today I got a new account in Siege. I was level 0. I played newcomers playlist till level 10 because I didn't want to play quick match. And I experienced people who had never played Siege before experience it for the first time, and I loved every part of it. People had no idea what they were getting into, and it was beautiful. People played Blitz, and they were scared of the enemy. The enemy wasn't scared of him, but they should be, right? People, they didn't know what certain... Like, someone threw an echo drone at him, and he was like, oh no, he runs away. He's like, there's a drone on the floor, he's chasing me, right? Like,
Were you
was
were you like
incredible.
going easy on people then, or like VoIPing them and like giving them tips and stuff?
No,
'Cause,
yeah,
like,
I mean, we were talking together and stuff. We were trying to like help them, and we had what was his face? We had Dr. Tangible, and he clutched a 1 versus 2, and I was on the lobby default coming bank, and I was like trying to tell them where they were, very simplified. Like, he's close to your left, or he's behind that table that you're looking at, and he clutched the 1 with 2, and he was like, typed in chat, thank you so much for the information. And I was like, yes, that's what we need. We need this.
Dude,
And we're
it's
hyping
like,
him. We're like, good job, Changeable. Good job.
And in 6 months, he's dropping a good night, easy, get wrecked.
He'll
yeah.
be impacted by the community.
He'll be on Twitter. He'll be a comp Go 4 player on Twitter.
Yeah, looking for team.
You know, that's like it just makes me think it's like sparring with a heavyweight champion boxer. It's like they're just going easy on you, but if you land like a really good hook or something, they're gonna fuck you up. So you're just in there going easy on people, but you know, if they piss you off, shit's getting heavy.
I just wish I could experience it. 'Cause I wish I could, and this goes for many things. I wish I could relive a certain tournament. I wish I could relive a certain day, like go back to kindergarten, you know. But I also really wish I could look at Siege for the first time ever with like the what nowadays would be the nostalgia rose-red goggles, right? And be like, damn, what a game!
Yeah,
I
that's the impossible thing with everything, right? Like
it is.
You see something new, and the joy of learning it is so good. Yeah. Once you've learned it, it becomes more discipline and dedication, and just doing the thing right again and again and again.
Yeah.
I mean, you played WoW as well.
Yeah.
Looking back at that, one of the best times of my life in gaming, learning WoW and experiencing everything for the first time.
Yeah.
And
Incredible.
the same with Siege, but once you're through that whole thing, there's nothing but just be happy and admire the people that get to go through it again, because it's done for us. It's not happening again.
Yeah.
Well, those people look to you, man. Those people learn from people who have been there and done that. I mean, I'd love to ask you. In fact, I'm about to ask you, how do I fucking aim like you, man? It's not just the aim. It's you spin around and you're looking directly at a door where someone. It's not just like you turn around and then correct your aim. You're there. That's what I'm trying to like get a little semblance of that. I'd love to have that.
It's like the internal mapping, right, in your head, because if I get flashed by a flashbang or a blitz, if I can't perfectly navigate to where I want to be without seeing, then I'm going to die. And then I failed my job, especially as a personal player. So I just think a lot of good players that spend, hours and hours and hours on the same maps, we have this internal map, and I mean, I can walk backwards on a drone or my character, and I can navigate the map perfectly fine. And now do that blinded for 5 seconds, because that's usually the duration of a flashbang. You're good to go. But how do you get there? How do you create the map? How do you achieve that, right? It's just hours and hours and hours, and being put in this scenario. I remember, so because of the whole DMCA thing with Twitch and stuff, I actually deleted all my clips last night. 28,000 something clips. RIP. A lot of that was on YouTube, thankfully, but still. And I saw a clip of me like 2.5, 3 years ago. I get blinded by a blitz on bank, and I'm in basement. I managed to kill him somehow, turn around 180 degrees, run down the hallway and turn left, and I go, I should be in the elevator now in basement. And blind goes away, and I'm in basement. I'm like, it's pretty cool. And Doki goes, you navigated that? And it's just one of those things that feels extremely rewarding as a player when you pull it off, and it kind of displays just how far you come to understand the game internally, because you can look at the map and go, that's a door, that's an opponent. And you can kind of like flick between them with your mouse, but if you're holding an angle and there's a door to your right, perfectly flick into it, in basically a single frame of movement, a single action, not a little bit of a flick and a micromanagement, just a single line.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of knowledge and a lot of habit building, right? Muscle memory, etc.
It feels like more than muscle memory, though. It feels like there's something in your brain which is like a recognition. And there's something that goes on behind, in here. There's the muscle memory, but there's also like when you see an enemy, to understand that that's an enemy, there's a bit of cognition that goes on that's really quick with someone like you, where the average person is like, that's an enemy, oh shit, now I move. Whereas you're like, that's an enemy, and you're shooting.
Yeah, it's second nature to us. And when I started playing the game, I remember very vividly that I would have to think very hard about what I want to do, right? If I'm in a 1 versus 2 scenario, and then someone would do something about, okay, he's doing this, so I'm gonna do this in response. And usually I would die or choke, as we call it, because I wasn't quick enough. And the reason why I believe I'm a very good clutch player and statistically have the most clutches in Pro League history is because I have come to the scenario where a lot of pro players, or if not every pro player is these days, where we know what we want before it happens, right? It's like chess. We know all the moves. If they do this, we do that as a counter movement, etc. And then sometimes we spice that with a little like left turn swing, whatever the case might be. And I watched my girlfriend, who just came to PC 7 months ago, and when she's in a clutch scenario, she has no idea what she wants to do. She doesn't know how to approach it. She just kind of does something, and then sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't, and that's really it. If you have a plan, even if it's a terrible, like 1% chance of winning plan, if you have a plan, if you know what you want to do and how you want to do it, you have a much better chance at succeeding than just, I guess I'll do this kind of scenario, right? And then eventually you'll understand what makes a good plan, and you'll perfectly execute it, like more often than not, and you'll win.
Doubt and lack of decision is worse than anything else when it comes to just any kind of competition against another person. Because first off, you give them more time, and you don't commit to anything. So everything you're doing, you're like in the middle of backing out of it all the time. It's I think from a competitive, like why the competitive players have this, because they first of all, like you failed so many clutches on a certain door that you know everywhere people could peek from. What's more likely? What's going to happen if I do kill this guy? Well, where's the next guy likely to peek from? Like all of that is going through his head while he's playing, and I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think crosshair placement is way more important than aim. Yeah. Because if you're on the right spot, I don't care if your aim is 10 times better. If your crosshair is where the guy's gonna peek, you're eliminating so much movement, and you don't have like your next plan is just to put your crosshair where the next enemy is gonna be.
Yeah.
And then you can go through those motions instead of having to move there, aim at the head, shoot. Okay, where's the next one? Turn around. Oh, maybe he's here. You have to just decide that I'm dealing with this problem, then this problem, and then this problem. Yeah. And if you lose, well, at least you had a plan, and now you know where in that plan you can change next time.
Yeah, and you tried, right? Like we always say in G2 and back in Penta, we would rather lose by doing or lose by trying than lose by not doing, right? We'd rather run in the building with 5 people doing the worst thing ever than to sit and spawn and time runs out. Because if you lose by time running out, you didn't try hard enough, because you could have ran in and died rather than time running out. You could have run in and tried to achieve the victory rather than the time run out. So you can always
That's
do that.
my rank pet peeve. When people are too afraid in a 1v3.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, but I can't win. Well,
you can
don't
win.
Try. It's never happening.
There's like nothing to gain from not trying. That's just
exactly.
crazy. Like,
and no one is putting pressure on you to win that, because you're not supposed to. If they play it right, you're not winning 1v3.
Yeah.
Like that should never happen. But they're sitting there thinking the same.
Yeah.
And that's your chance.
How are we doing on time here? Do we have a few more minutes? Because I think there's something else I'd like to get into.
Cut off in 20.
Okay. All right. Are we good with that? I mean, I feel like we have to ask a little bit about the Save Siege, and your hashtag that kind of started from you. You made a video talking about a lot of the problems within Siege and how you'd like to see them addressed, and we've covered that a lot on the podcast. So first of all, I mean, I want to open it up to you to talk about anything you want to regarding that. Also, we have received a statement from Ubisoft, the Rainbow Six Siege team, saying that they're going to put out they're going to communicate some. And I'm not sure that it was necessarily all directed at you, but it did feel kind of like it was a response to a lot of the concerns within the community. So, second part of the question would be, what is the perfect world for you? Like, what do you hope to hear from that would really make a difference for you?
So it started off with venting frustration on stream. I saw Voidboy in League of Legends made a video saying something like "Save League of Legends solo queue," and he was a former pro player, and it sparked a lot of interesting, not necessarily negative, but interesting discussion between streamers, pro players, content creators, developers about how they perceive the game, why it is they perceive the game that way, and what they would like to see different. And I did the same on stream, where I just spoke for 2 hours about what I would do, what the issues are, etc. And I didn't even start the Save Siege. It was pretty much like the people that watched that video, because it wasn't mentioned in the video. It was more like a meme. And the hashtag did a lot more bad than good. And that is the issue with a hashtag, is that it's so easy to just be a keyboard and say hashtag Save Siege, fuck the devs, right? And then you take in something that was meant to be something that could inspire people to come together on this or share their thoughts on something, and they've made it a weapon all of a sudden, right? Because it was never meant to be a weapon by any means, even though it definitely could have that impact. It was never the intention. And basically, I just wanted to get it out there how I felt, and I really want to see if I was alone on this, because I feel like I get screwed over by the game so often, and probably because I understand the game at a high level and I play the game very much, which means that my scenarios happen, 100 times to 1 for most people because I play so many hours a day. And I was very positively surprised about how many people felt the same way and how many people shared their experiences. But as I said, the issue became that a lot of people took this and just added the bad parts like game sucks, game is dead, fuck the devs, etc. So that sucks. What I want to see out of this, and we kind of already gotten it, like I'm not going to take credit. I don't want to do any of that. I'm not going to say it was because of the video, but we've already started seeing a lot more response and feedback from Ubisoft, whether it's from personal accounts from Ubisoft employees saying, oh, we're releasing a statement next week, or seeing Marie or community managers saying certain things on Twitter. Obviously, if you don't follow them, you won't see these things, but I've been retweeting them as much as I can to showcase it. But they've started talking a lot. And as you said, they mentioned the blog post they're going to make later this year, soon TM. I'm not sure there's a date. I don't believe there is. That they're going to talk about another list of issues and concerns besides the top priority, which was addressed recently with cheaters and freezing lobbies, etc. And that's what I want to see. I want to see that when there's a clash bug, that they recognize it, they acknowledge it, they say it, because it teaches their baby. And sometimes the baby is born without hair and it looks like an alien, and you gotta be proud of it, right? And I want them to really cherish their ugly baby if this is the case. I want them to say that the game isn't perfect. I want them to say, we know there are so many cheaters out there, but you know what? We are trying. We are listening. We do care, because they do care. And I know for a fact they do, because I talk to them often. I work with them. I've been to workshops, etc. And I love spending time with them. They're great people. But when you're voicing a problem or you're giving feedback for multiple years on end, and especially as a person that doesn't have the direct relationships like we do, for example, you don't feel like they care. You don't feel like they listen. It's like saying, oh, mom, I have an issue, and she doesn't reply. She doesn't say, oh, what is it? Or, oh, let me hear it. Or, I'll help you out. You just state your problem and silence. So they just go, we know the servers are laggy. It's not really like up to us. It's the Microsoft Azure servers, or we are communicating with them and seeing if we can figure something out. Instead, it's just silence, and we're playing R6 Clash on these potato servers in front of 20,000 people with 500 ping teleporting, and people are typing in chat, aha, the servers are bad again, ... And the admins are going, oh, let's rehost for the 20th time. And it just shines this bad light up on the game that I don't want to. But since the light is there, let's acknowledge it, right? Let's admit that it's not perfect.
For the last week.
Yeah, they have.
Is that just a Europe thing? Because I haven't seen anything from anybody in North America.
Well, I think it's the US server
specifically. So it's node related.
Yeah.
A little devil's advocate on the idea of acknowledging things, because in the big wide world, with like other jobs and stuff, you don't need to go out and say we know this unless you can change it.
Yeah.
I don't want to misquote Craig Robinson when he was on here, but I think he mentioned that saying we know and then not being able to do something right away kind of devalues your word a little.
Yeah.
So let's say if they go out and say we know there's cheaters, there's got to be something ready soon that to like kind of back that thing up, right? Because no one wants to hear them continuously go, yeah, we know, yeah, we know. Yeah,
it's also negative. Yeah.
Because in all fairness, we have to be a little gullible if we don't think that they know, right? There are people dedicated to doing nothing but just sitting there reading tweets and keeping up with what's going on. I think it's fair to request information on it. But there are some things that just can't be, like, we can't get feedback until it's ready. They haven't been fast enough on many things. But it will never, I don't think we will ever see them just go, we know this is an issue, and then keep doing that if they don't have something to fix it with close after. Because it's very dangerous. It's the cheater conundrum where if you go out and say we banned 200 players, people will say that's not enough.
Yeah.
Say we banned 12,000, they'll go, oh, that's everyone's cheating.
Yeah.
Horrible. Can't play. So like there's no right answer.
No.
All of them will give a negative feedback unless you can come out and say, we have banned some cheaters and we're taking measurements against it. Then people are like, oh, okay, hopefully that helps. Sometimes we have to be vague.
I think the issue where this kind of stems from is more so the past than the present. I think that's a huge issue. Is that it's a lot about the past and the lack of, like, especially as a pro player. Like, we used to have a private Discord group where we could just private DM devs or give feedback or to report cheaters. Like, we had a personal report form for cheaters, and they would just get banned in like an hour. All of that was taken away from us. We have no line with devs anymore. Like, there's this whole like devs versus pro like war almost, and there's like casual community versus pros war and casual base against dev war. I think a lot of it is like build up frustration from the past for sure. I think a lot of things have gotten significantly better, and I think that especially since I think ever since like esports took over and someone like Stewart, for example, was hired, I think ever since then, as a pro player at least, I've seen a significant like bonus and increase in like communication, feedback, help, flow, etc. And it's only gotten better. So massive props there. And I do think one thing that gets taken for granted is that we point out, myself included specifically, a lot of negative stuff because we all know what's good. We know what's great. The arbiters are great, etc. Right? We don't say it. Right? That's the expected level. It's kind of like when G2 in its prime, we're expected to win tournaments. Anything less is a failure. And it's kind of comes to the conclusion where we're just pointing out all the bad things, despite there are so many great things. And as you said, there is only Siege. Like Ubisoft has done such a tremendously good job because they have created something that no one else in the market has. We don't have Fortnite versus Apex versus PUBG versus 20 billion BR games. Sorry, we don't have Call of Duty versus Battlefield. No, we just have Siege. That is tremendously difficult to do. And it's a terribly, terribly difficult game to code and balance and debug because the game is so detailed and complex compared to simple games, which most games are these days. So they've done so many things good, and they do get a lot of slack for things that they just miss.
I think that there's like an example going on right now, or two examples I can think of right now, though, that kind of play into your point. Like I can see both sides. I think that both you and Zoronic have brought up great points in what you just went back and forth on there. But like, okay, so the servers have been garbage in EU. That's a known fact for the last week. Why not put out a statement saying, "Hey guys, this is on Microsoft's end. We're doing everything we can to work with them to try to solve the problem." But like people are saying, Siege's servers are garbage.
Yeah,
and it's like Ubisoft has an office in Europe where these servers are, and they're like, and somebody just took the day off. They're not there to fix it. That's not the case.
Let's look at it like we're looking at companies. Do you think it's a good idea for a company to go out and say, you know what, it's the other guys? No one cares.
Well, I don't think you say that. I don't think you say that. I think that you say, hey, just so everybody knows, we've been in contact with Microsoft Azure servers. It appears to be what's that?
There was a statement out. So if you're making the case that they said
from the Rainbow Six Siege account,
yeah, we're aware that there are server issues. Looking to fix it.
Okay. Yeah, was that from the Ubisoft account or the Rainbow Six?
That was from
Siege
Rainbow
account?
Six account.
Okay. Yeah, I would just say, like, what was the wording on it?
Yeah, I haven't seen it myself.
Squeeze in Microsoft. Just take that statement and squeeze in Microsoft Azure.
Yeah, we're working with Microsoft to try to fix the problem. You don't have to necessarily blame them or whatever. The other thing that I would bring up is there is a real problem with the nitro cells. I forget the word for it. Where did they change?
Shrapnel change.
Shrapnel changes. Yeah, there's I've seen enough clips now. There's real change. There's real problems here. So I think that a statement on that could be due as well. Like, are they looking at fixing it? Are they looking at reverting it? What's the thought process there? Because as of right now, we don't even know that they're aware of it, which I'm sure that they are. But how do we know?
Here, 4th of June, one day after it started getting bad, and it was bad like on some games and fine on others. It was really weird on EU at least. We are aware of the issues affecting connectivity and matchmaking in Rainbow Six Siege and are working on resolving it this ASAP. And then a link to the support. But that's it.
In fairness, that's pretty generic, and I've seen that.
I was gonna say that's very vague.
But what else can they say?
I would specify it because if I read this honestly,
but maybe you can't contractually.
This
is what we're forgetting.
We don't know that.
Like, maybe you have a contract saying that if it is Azure service, that you can't just go out and say, you know what, Azure servers are getting attacked, and put that out on to everyone. Maybe you can't do that. Who knows? That's what I'm saying. Like, we got to be careful with what we're requesting if we can't get it.
Connectivity and matchmaking just makes me. It doesn't make my head click as to what the issues are.
No, I think it should just have said like high ping and
server stability
or
sure.
it's not written in the best way, and it's probably written by someone who just sits there running the Twitter account that doesn't actually really know what happens on the player end.
Yeah. Of course.
Because it wasn't issues affecting some people. It was issues affecting almost everyone in Europe. Though, at least playing on West EU since the 4th, I think, until now. It still happened a little bit today, but a lot less.
Yeah.
It's definitely bad. What I'm saying is that there might be a reason that they can't say more than they do.
It's very true.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, let's say it's a big DDoS attack on a service.
We don't know the full story. Absolutely. And you have to give them credit. There's goodwill there. Like, I believe there's goodwill. I think we all agree there's goodwill that we would extend to them, that we know that the people care and that they want to do everything. So obviously, yes. We don't know for sure they can't either. You know what I mean? Like,
no, sure.
Yeah, so,
but that's why you got to give it benefit of the doubt.
Well, you do. But I mean, like, what about the shrapnel thing? Do you think that anything?
I think the shrapnel point's a good point, because, I mean, Leon Gitz showed us a clip of the R6 Clash, which might have well been a Pro League match, where he gets you forward from basement into lobby. It lands basically on his toes. He's in the explosion. Basically, he takes 0 damage. Not even half of. He takes 0 damage. They haven't stated anything regarding that. It's a consistent issue with the shrapnel change. That's the one where I'm a little bit concerned. Because
do you not think that could have been the servers on that clip?
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't know.
Like, it dropped a packet, but you didn't see any of the indicators, right? In the screen, I watched the clip back to look for any indicators.
You
won't see the indicators between them if it's on the spectator.
No, but I mean, I played.
It was his clip from his perspective that he showed, right?
Yeah.
But maybe I don't know. Was that not from the spectating view?
No. Leon uploaded his own
personal
point of view. Yeah. I also record all our games, and I also wasn't anything on our end. And
I don't know what that one could be. It looked like it landed on top of them.
It's been happening multiple times. It actually happened to me today on stream. I can try and find a clip later where it just seems like damage on explosive is inconsistent. It's not even that it's broken. It's just inconsistent and unreliable, where sometimes you die as you fall that's billion miles away, and then sometimes you don't die when you're right below it. And it's frustrating. It's not, for me, I'm not a C4 player. I don't really care too much. But it's one of those scenarios where...
Do you think we notice it more now?
Possibly.
Because of that?
Yeah.
Because possibly. I remember having this all the way back with double beams. You know, when the roof has... if you were to hit in the middle of a double beam, you would never do more than 50 damage on a good day to someone. And you could be pulse throwing the perfect C4, but it landed in the middle of a double beam, and it did like 50 damage or 0.
That does happen, I believe, yeah.
But now it would at least destroy the entire floor, and it would look really weird.
Yeah.
Because you take way too little damage, right?
Yeah.
Because I think, at least initially, the idea was that it should be easier for you to tell where you were taking damage from. I think that was the only real reason that was implemented.
It makes
so you
sense.
had a better indicator.
But then it's like...
It seems to be like missing a few things. Because, not even fuse. At least that's just way too much damage and can be tuned. But the difference with where C4 is and when you're in and out of range and it destroys the wall and when it damages you, it's like if you move half a meter in, you insta die, and if you move half a meter out, it does no destruction on the wall.
Yeah,
that was a little weird.
Let me come back. Let me come back because I mentioned like those two things that I think they could do better on. Let me say though, like what we're talking about here, although I have seen multiple clips of people with the shrapnel system having issues, possibly the shrapnel issues. I've seen multiple clips where there could be an issue here. That doesn't mean Siege is a shit game. Like it's honestly for me and I don't play the game near as much as you, Pengu, or use Ironic, but I haven't encountered it a single time that I've noticed where it's affected me a single time. So yes, it's a problem. Yes, I think they should be communicating on it now. I've seen that enough, but it does not justify anybody going on Twitter and saying, look at how shit Siege is. Look at this game is completely broken. These devs are clueless. That, it does not warrant that type of response. Okay. So I don't think either of the changes that I mentioned there do. But I just wanted to kind of make that clear.
That's kind of the beautiful thing. It's really good to critique. Like, it's amazing, and people have to do it. People have to find clips of things going wrong, saying, is this supposed to happen? Right? But it'll never be perfect. But at least, like, push the critique and try to make it, just think about how it's delivered. Because the amount of people that are sitting there saying Valorant's just doing it perfect. Valorant had a massive shit show with their Pegasus advantage issue where like people were 18 frames off. And this is the one that is so simple and supposed to everything's going to be perfect, right? Cheaters on day 2 on a closed beta. Like we gotta be fair with what standards we're setting because we want to play a game that's super complex. We're gonna have a lot more issues than other games. We're just gonna have that.
Yeah.
For Pengu, like he's gonna experience way more than anyone else, and it's also gonna feel 10 times worse for him than any of us, because you have a top tier player playing against normal players, which doesn't happen that much in other games. Like your CS top pros don't mingle around a normal global elite.
Yeah.
Right? There isn't a setting for pro players to go and play and have their fun and stream, except for if you were to make custom games or something. I think that's a big issue we have in Siege, is that all the actual top tier players don't have anything but rank to go to.
Yeah.
And it's way too easy to get up there. There is no way that I should be 1 or 2 ranks away from a pro. No way in hell. I play for fun, and they don't have anywhere to go past that. That's a bit of an issue, because that also means that you're going to be playing against people that don't take the game as serious, so they're going to do really dumb things. and you're going to sit there and think, what is going on? And that just amplifies what's happening in that game, right? And I think even if you took a pro team, they'd probably never lose an actual ranked game if they really put their, all their effort in. But you don't want to do that because you are playing for fun. It is, free time. It's not a scrim when that's happening. I just wish there was somewhere for the top tier players to play that isn't champ, because that ain't it.
I fully agree. I think everyone agrees because, I mean, if you're diamond, you can face plat 3, plat 2 players, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're champion, you'll face plat 2, plat 1 diamond players. It's not fun for plat 3 to face diamond champion players, and it's not necessarily fun for a diamond player to just steamroll plat players either. So do you sacrifice a bit longer queue time so diamond only face diamonds? Or I think the easy solution is to get a platform separately that will allow for these things, right? An integrated system like ESCA or Face It in CSGO, similar in Siege, but currently we don't have it. With us going this direction, who knows? Maybe we can get some Face It going. I don't know. But it would be great to have somewhere else to go for sure.
Yeah, we need something, because top rank doesn't mean anything right now. Like, I was champ last season and I'm diamond now, and whether I'm plat, diamond, or champ, I'm playing against the same people.
Yeah, exactly.
The exact same
people.
All the time.
I'm chump every season. On that note, Pengu, what's your highest championship? What champion rank?
So fun fact, I don't think I've really climbed into champion since the actual rank was announced.
That's my phone.
That's your phone. I was like, who
I
is
never
talking?
said okay, Google. EFL Championship fixtures. Shut up.
Nice. Awesome. Get it.
Sorry about that.
I never climbed into champion after it was announced, because I had the fear that when champion became in effect, it would be a nightmare with cheaters and boosters and people just 5-stack abuse, etc. against solo queuers. So I would get champion, quit it. But back in Operation Health, I did get 7,000 ranked matchmaking points, elo, whatever, which is like a lot of points, which is arguably impossible because of cheaters these days. But back then, we're in a good spot. But that was like my high. So it was like 7,007 or so ranked points, or whatever you might have called, which would be very, very high champion these days.
Well,
but
then,
I haven't ventured.
Well, then we know it's all bullshit. If you're not...
It's just not competitive. If it was solo queue, duo queue only, and then 5 stacking or like 3+ more stacking, I would like ranked. But right now, if I don't 5 stack in diamond or above, I'm shooting myself in the leg because everyone else was tryharding a 5 stacking. And if I'm solo queuing, I'll face 5 Empire players. I'm not gonna win because they're 5 Empire players.
Yeah.
Hear me out on the rank.
Yeah.
You remember old school when you didn't know when you were gonna rank up?
Yeah, it's exciting, right?
That is the best rank experience. I have a screenshot of you and I in Gold 2 in Year 1, Season 1, before we ranked up. I think Six Quattro was there, Falco. It was on Hereford. Great game. It was my rank up game, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
So you sit there and you play and you rank up and you think, oh yes. Now you get 5 points off diamond and you're stressed about winning the next game. Then you lose a couple and you're already demotivated.
Yeah.
I do not like that you see your actual MMR every time. It would be fine if you go in and see it somewhere on a stat page or something. I'm not against that. But I think the rank experience was more fun before champion and even before you could see your elo.
I think it's an interesting point because CSGO, I believe, still has the same system where you'll just randomly rank up or down. Right?
You don't see your elo ever,
Yeah. And I remember
and there are
playing
hidden
a
promotion
little bit.
matches.
And I like that. Like I never knew what it would take, but every game mattered, right? And it wasn't like, oh, I'm 1 point off diamond. Oh, if only I got lucky with the 1 point or whatever. And then you lose, you're like, oh my god, I was so close. I can't
It's
believe.
just like you want to win more than you lose. That's it.
Yeah,
You just
exactly.
want to win more than you lose.
Yeah, that's it.
Now
As
it's
long as
you want to
more.
win the next 2.
Yeah.
Right? And if you don't win the next 2, oh, now I have to win 4 more without losing 1. It's the system of that pressure of having to win the next one and the next one and the next one doesn't really do anything. Because
I think a lot of people that, especially in the lower bracket, I think they like seeing the progression because they see, and it's in my opinion, it's wrong to view it this way, but I think a lot of people see, oh, I'm getting better, I'm climbing, I'm going up, but it's like, is it because you're playing well? Are your opponents just really bad? Are you getting lucky with matchmaking? Are you 5 second solo queues? Like, are you trying hard? Are you playing a map you're good at? There are so many factors to your growth in your rank and your success as a player than just your numbers and elos. But all people seem to look at is, are you diamond? You're not diamond? Oh, okay. Oh, you're diamond with a 0.8 KD? You must be boosted. But that guy could be like the best support player you've ever seen in your entire goddamn life, right? But he's a boosted 0.8 KD Thermite player. Like, people, they judge of KD, rank, and that's really it.
Is he boosted if he mains Ash?
If he's 0.8 KD, he'd be very boosted because he's supposed to be 2.5 KD, right? He's supposed to be gunning people.
R6 stats, Ash Jaeger main.
Yeah, I mean that every day, man. I don't know. I want people to not feel defined by their rank alone, and I don't want people to feel defined by the points on the thing as well, because there are gold players that are way worse than it should be, in my opinion, and then there are some gold players that have so much potential that are so good already, even though they're in that elo. And then you see some diamond or plat players that, okay, maybe they were boosted because they probably shouldn't be here. Or someone that bought the game, they got level 50, he played some ranked games, he won most of his placement games, now he's plat 3, facing me in ranked, and I'm diamond. And I'm like, I'm a pro player for 5 years, you're level 50, 60 or so, you are in plat because of your placements that gradually boosted you significantly, and you're going to be stuck in elo health for seasons to come. Or if anything, for that season because of soft reset. And he doesn't want to get smacked by diamond players. I don't want to smack him either, but we have to. We face each other.
Or you have people that circle queue with their friends' unranked account to get to champ as fast as they can. The second they hit it, they go on playing plat 3 to get their clips. Like, that's really destroying it for a lot of plat players as well.
That's half
there
of
are people
YouTube
there.
these days.
Yeah. You gotta
a lot of that.
But people are sitting there in plat 3, maybe trying with their friends, and maybe they are this, like the low gold players that got together, and because they're working together now, they can make it into plat.
Yeah.
And they're meeting Jeff and Jimmy, just sprinting around, one-tapping them, doing, like, that's not the experience you want to have.
No.
There's nothing for them to learn.
No.
Because they're not going to win a gunfight against them, and they're not going to be able to get into this whole stratting out and learning the game. I don't know what the fix is. I think if everyone had one account and we maybe only saw your rank at the end of the season, think about where people would actually end up if they had no idea until the end of the season.
That would be interesting.
Interesting social experiment.
You play less games. I think the average player would play less games, though.
Yeah, you're not grinding towards something progressively.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that might be the case.
One thought I had hearing that story was, one day I'm going to meet Jeff, and one day I'm going to chin him. As simple as that.
I don't know. I mean,
on that note, all right,
watch out, Jeff.
Pengu, anything else you want to say, man, before we wrap up here? I want to give you kind of a open floor here. If there's anything you want to say.
No, not much. I think one thing to kind of come together is to look at where each one of us was X years ago, individually and also together in spirit. I remember after losing Atlantic City, it was one of the first times when I actually spoke, especially in Danish, and he approached me and he spoke in Danish, and I was like, who's Danish here, right? who on earth? And this is so many years ago. And now it's a running scroll for Hies. The same goes for you, Pete, and for you guys playing. Like we have all been aware of each other's existence for a long time, and we have all been intertwined in the same community, one way or another. Podcast, putting the potato, whatever the case might have been. And I think it's beautiful that we're now here together in our sizes and shapes and forms on the podcast. And the same goes for everyone watching and everyone else that's a part of this community, because we have come a long, 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 long way, right? Whether you were a silver 2 seasons ago, now you're a gold. That's fantastic. Keep going. Whether you enjoy the game with friends and unranked, go for it. You're role-playing terrorist hunt. Weird, but do it if it makes you happy, right? Whatever suits your needs. I just really want to appreciate, because like this game is so much more than just a video game for a lot of people, and in the end, we all enjoy it, even if we sometimes complain about it.
They exist, by the way.
They do. Yeah. I know. They do exist.
Actually, they don't. They role play in training grounds now, guys. Get it right.
Let me tell you, I've got an account which has just as much PvE as PvP. I know. That shocked me the other day. It's one of my accounts is like, I don't know, 60 hours PvP, 60 hours PvE. I think it's because I was doing a lot of training. Like a lot of tea hunt. But I just want to say it's been a real treat having you on, and I'm just like so glad that we've been able to get you on and have this conversation, and I'm really grateful that you gave up a couple of hours to talk to us on the podcast.
Oh, not really you guys. I mean, everyone's time is valuable, whether you're on a podcast or not on a podcast, and we all got busy schedules. We all got things going on, and everyone took their time to come together, and they make great things happen. 21st episode as well, which means you've made 20 great episodes before this one, which means you guys have invested a lot of time and effort into these episodes. So thank you guys for that.
Wow.
Thanks for coming, Pengu.
And, yeah, it's been awesome.
I hope we can get you back after this next 3 phases.
Oh, yeah. Let's see what's happened since then.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
For anybody watching, you can watch Pengu in action on G2 once Pro League starts back up. We will have Pengu's Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube linked down in the description if you want to go follow him over there. Very active on all of those platforms. Once again, Pengu, thank you very much for joining us. It's fascinating as always. And thanks everybody for tuning in. We will see you guys next week.